people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows. I don't know, everybody just doesn't know where to go. They won't let, everything is blocked off. You can't even, they're telling us to get out, but there's nowhere to go. And then I heard that another plane hit, and if you go over by there, you can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now. Oh my God.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama Bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
May 2nd, 2011, we here at On The Spot studio. It's 1:30 in the morning. I'm excited. I got my On The Spot correspondent, Stephen Thomspon, here with me. I had to get him up out of the bed after I got the breaking news, which was Osama Bin Laden has been killed.
Monumentous occasion, a historic one in the United States of America. And yes, we're worried about a lot of things, trying to get here on time and shaving, but you know, more than that, the sartorial issues are backdrop to a geopolitical major event in the history of the United States.
Break it down for us.
Well, let's look at it. Geopolitically, what happened? Today, it really was an interesting situation in how the media handled it, but it slipped out supposedly roughly around 10:45.
Okay, I got out of work about 15, 20 after 11.
Right, so
when I heard it, I was shaking.
Yes, a lot of people were like, they informed that the President of the United States would have a press conference. They pushed it back a little bit, but seems that some of the Twitters that were out were something from the press secretary of Donald Rumsfeld. Supposedly, he may have been the leak, so to speak, to say it's a possibility that Osama Bin Laden had been killed. And then it was confirmed. So it basically was an amazing situation on a night where the news cycle is kind of quiet on a Sunday night.
Sunday night, yes,
Sunday
indeed.
night, after deadlines, all the stuff. On the Spot has an analysis, a deep and a very, very powerful one, probably the first from a video perspective, you know, in that sense.
Well, this is what you do when you own your studio. When you have your own studio and your own equipment, you have a place to go to tell your story, to get your news out here, and it's very important, and I'm glad we're blessed to do it. But the impact.
The impact. So let's look at three different things. I think in this show we can talk about three levels. The geopolitical impact, that's the global, around the world. The national impact, what do the American people think?
Let's start with around the world.
Let's talk about around the world. Well, you know, in an issue of clearly a global situation where we have revolutions, or at least very much an activist group of people in Egypt, you know, Tunisia, Bahrain, Syria. It seems that all across the world there's an uprising.
Yes.
No doubt about it. A clear awareness of people about their rights, their democracy, or at least the feeling that they need to do something. Now we have terrorism at the parallel running neck and neck with the issues in our country as well as the world, saying, well, what is America going to do about a terrorist threat in every single area of the world? Now, this is very powerful because we have to do an analysis of what does Osama Bin Laden mean to terrorism.
He's the head.
He's considered the figure. He's considered the North Star.
Exactly.
That's what they call him from a political and a terrorist and intelligence community say. So what does it say? Does Al-Qaeda go away? Is it a loosely knit group of people who can function without their head? It's a good question. It was created such that it can function without someone at the head, or at least a centeredless management.
Well, we still have Zakawi out here, and we can't forget about him.
That's true. So that's where the real question is, does terrorism in this kind of way stop? in a sense, it's no. We have to really be vigilant. We have to continue. But there's a symbolic quality to a leader being taken out.
Without a doubt.
So in that sense, the geopolitical impact is it will be dampened, and the individuals have to worry about who fills the void. You know, what happens around the globe where folk who are terrorists, who say, you know what, either I'm going to step up or it's just too much. I cannot deal with the fact that the United States has been successful in doing away with the North Star.
Well, we must take in consideration that Osama Bin Laden was a multi-millionaire.
Right.
So his finances could put a stranglehold on the organization.
Right.
What do you say to something like that?
Well, you know what, they've been trying to track with the idea of the flow of the money. You know, and it's been very, very interesting of how supposedly the money chain in their type of raising is very sophisticated. People don't realize that there is a kind of a network of folks who transfer money and have fronts and layers, and it's a cultural dimension to some of the folk who are involved in a terrorist organization. For example, they'll kind of send money through very simple international wires and things and set that up. So can you really block that off? Can you stop that from commerce? So you really can't, in a sense. The question is, does the individuals who have been set up, are they going to continue to step up?
One of the questions I ask is how much of his own money was being used to fund this terrorist stuff that was going on.
Right.
Now we also got that's one big part that we have to look at.
Right.
So now, where do they go from there? Where do we go?
Right.
Where do we go? Because do we let our guard? Right now you have thousands of people outside the White House, hundreds of people outside the White House, jumping up and down, screaming, everybody's happy. I believe we're going to shoot out to
Times Square.
World Trade Center.
Okay, World Trade Center.
And we're going to leave out of here in a few minutes, and we're going out there,
Right.
pick up some coverage. But now, do we let our guard down, or do the terror alert goes up? We got a new terror system here.
Right.
Do the alert go up because of now the people in the Middle East is really upset now?
Well, you got to be careful. You say
wait.
some people.
What about the terror cells here?
And what is the trigger for the activation?
Exactly.
Key thing. I think that's why, to your question, you really can't let your guard down. And really, in a sense, you may have an unintended consequence is to set off some type of trigger that has been set up based on the fact that the lead or the head is gone. So I think people have to give a particular awareness to the fact that they are very sophisticated about what they've done, and terrorism is to catch you off guard. So if this is the trigger and those cells are activated, then we do have an issue to be really a major problem. So now we have to continue and be vigilant, and really have to look and be kind of a higher level of awareness now.
So our level do go up.
Yes.
You do agree with that?
Yes, no doubt about it.
We both can agree. We put two thumbs up for that.
2 thumbs up with that.
I'm looking at within the next week to 2 weeks.
Right.
There got to be repercussions.
Yeah. What happens is a quick response. If something's going to happen, you have to really take in the idea that they would respond with that trigger because it was set. If in fact Osama Bin Laden had been killed, from their point of view, that would be the trigger. So what happens? We talked about the national. So in a good segue from the geopolitical, what's the national, our effect here in our country? So we got to look at these major cities that we live in: New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, these places that are the centerpieces that in a sense, unfortunately, become the media places that a terrorist would want to have a lot of traction.
Exactly.
So we have to really look at what's going to happen in these major transportation systems, major public areas, and what people are going to do.
So it's safe for us to say, be alert.
Be alert, no doubt about it.
Be even more alert, and do not let your guard down.
Right.
Because retaliation is always going to be a problem.
Right.
So what I want to ask you
And in New York, they say, if you see something,
say something.
Say something. Right.
What I want to ask you is, tell me something. If you've been getting over here from that time, did you get a chance to see the coverage of what they're saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. You have a very diverse community in New York City. And it just so happens that, there are a lot of Arab or at least people of Middle Eastern descent. It's playing all on the radios. Al Qaeda in the sense of understanding the dimensions of their reach, you really don't know the idea of like who supports them. You know, in our communities, is it something that resonates with folk who are supportive of terrorists? You really don't know, but it's all over the radios when you go in the stores. It's all on the televisions. We have to really look at what's going to be the feeling about what this is in our communities, because there are some very, very interesting feelings in our communities around a heightened awareness of how we treat people of Middle Eastern descent and discrimination and things like that. We have to be sensitive in that sense, because this was done by a person who didn't represent all of Islam.
He was radical Islam.
Radical, right. So the extreme.
He wasn't speaking for the Islamic community.
So that's the issue of what we have to keep clear, and not to be insensitive to other people's feelings. And then look at the fact that, you know, there have been so many people who, you know, talked about this in a very negative way from that background. So we have to look at that and balance that out.
Okay, so we're going to come back with a brief message.
Right.
After we take care of our sponsors, and we're going to come into, let's connect the dots with Obama.
And his perception.
His new perception.
Right.
And the different calls that I got. We'll be right back after a brief message from our sponsors.
USA!